Well, the pandemic has not gone away. It's still here. And I'm about to go COVID crazy. It's the real estate show. Welcome to the Real Estate Show. My name is Rick Naples. I'm the owner-broker of Zone Realty LLC. You zone your home. The coronavirus hasn't left us. We had high expectations that by this time, October of 2020, it would be a memory. But unfortunately, it hasn't gone away. And we're still practicing the protocols that have been put forth to try and keep everybody safe. In real estate, we were expecting certain changes. In other words, because the state had shut down a lot of businesses and schools were being closed and people were working from home, we didn't expect a lot of people to be out and about doing their daily activities. Thus, we didn't expect a lot of people to be out there looking to buy a house. I mean, let's face it, in order to purchase a house, you want to go see it. And we were afraid that the sellers, or those people that did have their houses on the market, really didn't want to have strangers coming to their homes during this corona pandemic period. So, we reacted in real estate by putting in certain protocols and procedures to try and help our sellers stay safe. And we also had a situation that while the state was shutting down, we had several thousand transactions that were in the process of getting to a closing. Now what are you going to do? I mean, how do you close when the attorneys aren't open anymore and the banks are shutting down? What do you do? Luckily here in our state of Connecticut, the governor helped make real estate agents essential workers. And with that designation of essential workers, we were able to continue on in our business and get those transactions that were in process closed. But we were all bracing as real estate agents and agencies that business was pretty much going to go away. And we were really at a loss as to what we were going to do. Some of us, like Zone Realty, stayed open on a limited basis, followed the protocols, worked with our buyers and our sellers as best we could during the pandemic to help the transactions come together. And we expected business to fall off. Well, as I said, we're sitting here now heading into the fall market. And the weird phenomenon that happened was the spring market, which was back during that March and April when the pandemic first started, which is usually our busiest season, did not happen as a busy season. Instead, we got a delay. We're seeing that season now in the fall. Ironically, instead of seeing home sales decrease and prices on homes drop, we've seen the opposite. Right now, we're experiencing what we're calling a seller's market. Houses are coming on the market like they normally do, and there's a ton of buyers that want to buy those homes. And as a result, sales are up. Business is up. Mortgages are up. There's a lot of different factors that are involved, and I think that's because mainly we've adjusted to the new life we have to live now because of the coronavirus. We're following the protocols, and we're doing what we need to do to keep ourselves safe and our families safe and those we interact with safe. It's a little bit different nowadays to show a house compared to this time last year. I mean, now when a realtor goes into a home to show it to a prospective buyer, we have to take all the different precautions. We have to wear a face mask. We have to make sure that our hands are covered either with gloves or we're using hand sanitizer. We have to instruct people not to touch anything, so on and so forth. It's a little extra step, but we're getting it done, and houses are selling. Now, we've seen some other things start to happen in the real estate market that were kind of expected, but then again, a little bit unique. The banks, for instance, have been doing mortgages, but doing a lot of the paperwork and the contact and the processing remotely. Remotely seems to be the way that business is being done now. Even myself, when I'm putting together a real estate transaction, I may see the client at the very beginning, and I may see the client when we're out going out actually looking at houses. But from the time that we make our purchase and sale agreement and get a contract accepted to the time we get to the closing, I may not see them physically at all. Everything is done remotely, either through electronic paperwork or through faxes, or in some cases even hand delivering a package, waiting for it to be signed and then going to pick it up later. We're trying to minimize the amount of contact that needs to happen as you're going through the real estate transaction. Even the attorneys have put in certain protocols in the way that they close on a property. I had a recent closing where there was nobody there. Now, this is not strange. That's happened in the past. We call it a paper closing, where everybody pre-signs the paperwork. But in this particular case, it was completely remote because of taking the precautions because of the coronavirus. It was a situation where the buyer and the seller never saw each other, never got together with the attorney. There was no traditional closing over the table. Everything was done via electronic signature, or in one particular case, the buyer actually sat out in their car while the attorney talked to them via their iPad through a Zoom meeting, going through the paperwork that had to be gone through as far as the mortgage was concerned. So, very interesting way of things being done. Interest rates at this particular time are still very, very low. And because of that, a lot of people are either refinancing or looking to buy their first home. And I want to talk a little bit about financing. Because the interest rates are so low, we're seeing a phenomenon happen that we haven't seen for a while, and that's that the underwriters, the people that review the loan applications and all the things that go with a loan in order to establish the mortgage, they're overwhelmed. They're not only overwhelmed because of the amount of business that's coming in, but they're also not working at full staff. There's a lot of people that have been furloughed. They're working from home, or they've been temporarily laid off because of the COVID pandemic. So we're starting to see process times be longer. This is really frustrating for the seller and very frustrating for the buyer, because what normally might have taken 45 to 60 days, we're now seeing upwards of 90 days or maybe longer, especially if it's a specific type of loan that's not a normal conventional 20-30% down loan. I recently had a situation where I had a couple. The gentleman was a veteran. They went with a veteran's loan, and we kept having to extend the dates because the VA was 8 to 10 weeks behind in processing loans. I've run into that situation with other types of loans too. So I guess what I'm trying to share here is one of the big changes that we've seen is that if you are in the market to buy a house and you are going to finance it, you have to be willing to wait a little bit longer, because it's going to take a little longer to process that. Now, they are putting into effect certain procedures in order to try to speed up the process. But of course, they also have to make sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed and so on and so forth. So it is getting a little bit better, but for now, it's just one of those effects that the coronavirus has had. Let's take a break and watch this quick little video, and I'll be back to talk more about COVID crazy. Another thing we've been seeing a lot of during this pandemic time when it comes to real estate is the situation of multiple offers. Now let me explain that. Multiple offer situation is when a buyer goes out, finds a home they fall in love with, and makes an offer on the home. And the seller's agent gets back to the buyer's agent to tell them that there's another buyer or buyers that have also made an offer on that same home. So you have multiple offers coming in for the seller to look at. Now, what happens in that particular situation? Well, there's no guarantee that one particular buyer or the other is going to get the home. The seller has to look at all the contracts and the merits of how those contracts are presented and what's in those contracts to pick the one that they feel is the best one. And a lot of times their decision is being made on what that contract is stating to do. Now, we've seen a phenomenon where we've not only had regular buyers who are buying a home for the second or third time, or first-time buyers who are buying their first home. We've seen investors start to come out because the interest rates are so low, looking to purchase homes to either fix or flip or hold as rental property. And a lot of times the investors are offering cash. And because we're in such a unique time where sellers are nervous about the mortgages coming through or the buyers that are looking to buy the house, sellers are tending to go with the contract they feel has the best possible odds of closing and has no encumbrances on it. In other words, a first-time buyer may make an offer on a house and ask for help with closing costs. Or perhaps they're using a program which is 100% financing or some situation like that. And they're up against someone who's making an offer to purchase the home for cash, where you don't have to wait for the mortgage company to process the loan. We've also seen situations with multiple offers where the type of loan may also affect the way the seller makes their decision. Is someone doing 100% financing with no money down and competing against someone who's doing conventional financing with 20 or 30% down? Or someone going a specific type of loan, like a VA loan or a 203K rehab loan compared to a conventional loan? Or is it a conventional loan compared to someone who's purchasing cash? The unfortunate thing is it gets very frustrating, especially for the buyers out there, because they find the home finally that they want to purchase, and now they're in competition with other people who want to buy that home. And it's really disappointing when the buyer's agent has to tell their client they accepted another offer. They didn't accept your offer. It's become a real challenge in structuring offers during this pandemic period to make sure you have the best chance of the seller accepting the offer on the home. So we've started to see a little bit of what I call COVID crazy. People are actually offering full price on a house. In some cases, they're offering 5, 10, and I've even seen 20% and more over the asking price in trying to secure the seller to pick their offer. That's brought up another problem, and that's the problem with the appraisal. Now, I'll say it here, I've said it a million times here on the Real Estate Show, not quite a million, but quite a lot. There are 3 prices when it comes to purchasing a house. There's the price the seller wants to get, there's the price the buyer is willing to offer, and the third price is what the bank is going to finance. And you know, the bank does not look at the net amount. In other words, if the house was $100,000 and you were putting $50,000 down and only looking to finance $50,000, the bank doesn't want the house to appraise for the amount they're financing it, the $50,000. They want the house to appraise for the sales price, the $100,000. So how much money you're putting down makes no difference when it comes to the appraisal. And if you've made an offer on a house at 10 or 20 or more % higher than what it was listed for, there's a very good chance the house is not going to appraise for that dollar amount. So you have to be very careful, and this is where you have to rely heavily on the expertise and the knowledge of the realtor that you're working with as to whether or not that makes sense and what the risks are when it comes to doing that. So like I said, multi-offer or multi-contract situations have almost become very, very commonplace. And the other phenomenon that has happened is homes will come on the market, and because there are so many buyers, the pent-up buying demand, as they call it, houses are selling very, very quickly. We're seeing houses be listed on one particular date, and within a day or two, sometimes a week, they're sold. So buyers are getting frustrated because by the time they can rearrange their schedules to go out and look at a house, it may already have been sold. COVID has made the whole situation as far as real estate is concerned a challenge and has changed the way the processings are happening. Sometimes it's very unpredictable. So you need to basically be patient. You have to make sure you have everything ready to go because the mortgage officers are asking for paperwork and you've got to make sure you can get that to them ASAP. You really need to be on your game. Because if you really want to purchase a house, you got to make sure that it's no delay on your side or on the realtor's side or on the seller's side per se. That you guys are all ready to go. The whole group is ready to go. And if there's any wait at all, it's just in processing time. Let's take a break and look at this quick presentation, and I'll be back with my final comments on COVID crazy. One of the things about this COVID pandemic period, as I've been saying, is how it's changed things. And I just wanted to share a little story with you about the frustration of specific or in general buyers. We had a situation where I went out with a young couple buying their first home. We found a house finally after looking at several and made a full price offer on the home, only to find out we were in a situation where other offers had come in and our offer wasn't accepted. So we were disappointed, but it happens. So we went out and continued looking. We found another home that we liked, so we made an offer, again, full price, what the seller was asking. Again, it was a situation with other people making offers on the house, and our offer wasn't picked. That's unusual, but we stayed the course and we went out and we looked at some more houses. We found another one that we liked. So we wrote an offer. Again, this time we made the offer, but we added about $5,000 to put ourselves in a position we thought to be selected to get this particular home. Again, it was in a multiple offer situation, and our offer wasn't picked. So now we're 3 strikes, and my buyer is getting quite frustrated and quite tired of looking at houses. So we restructured the mortgage, went to a different program, and the buyer decided to scrape up the money that they would need for closing costs. So we made an offer on another home that we found. We went in a little bit over full price. We weren't asking for closing cost help. And we didn't get the offer. We lost the offer to another buyer. Well, now that's 4. We were finally up to the 9th property that we looked at and made an offer. And lo and behold, the buying and selling gods must have been with us because the offer was accepted. Now the problem was putting the finance package together because this house didn't qualify for certain kind of financing. So we had to do a little bit of extra work to get the finance package to go. And I'm proud to say that at this particular time, that home has closed and the buyer is finally in the house for their first time. On this final part of the real estate show, I'd like to take the opportunity to just make some comments, either about the subject of the show that I'm talking about or just in general about the real estate market. And, it's been a challenge to put together the real estate show during this COVID pandemic. Of course, my show here, we've always done remotely. I'm filming today from the new Zone Realty office on West Main Street in Plainville, Connecticut. And I'm filming by myself. There's nobody else here with me. It's just myself and the camera and some lighting sticks. And that's it. Again, trying to keep safety protocols in effect as I'm doing the show. Now, I'm lucky because the real estate show has always been a field production show. I've always taken the camera, courtesy of Nutmeg TV, and gone out and filmed from a different location or from the field someplace. So I'm pretty used to being able to do the show this way. But I have had to make some adjustments. And one of the adjustments is how often we do the real estate show. We're not doing it every couple of weeks like we were before. We're doing it when we do have the opportunity to put a show together and follow the protocols that we need to follow during this coronavirus pandemic. So there's a challenge that needs to be done. But again, we're doing the best that we can. My hope is that I'll continue to be able to do shows and things will start to get back to normal and we'll be able to start filming our shows on a more regular basis. But for now, we'll see you as often as we can. And as always, we hope that you'll stay tuned in to watch new shows as they become available. My name is Rick Naples, and this has been The Real Estate Show. I very much appreciate you taking the time to watch. Take care, and I will see you next time.